Yo, what's up, everybody? It's an honor. This is going to be a little bit of a different kind of video than I normally do. I'm in my stream spot, not in the talking in front of a TV table over there. But I kind of want to just give like my first impressions of the new evoker spec. I think it's pretty fucking sick. In the background, I'm going to have this footage from a 23 Olda that I pugged earlier. But I'm still learning the spec, obviously, so don't like judge my play here or think that what I'm doing is like optimal or whatever. But I just kind of want it in the background so I can kind of talk about some cool things that I think are going on with the spec and what I like about it. And I don't know, just, things that make it interesting and different from other specs. So obviously it has like the standard evoker utility, like it's got Zephyr and like cauterizing flame and poison dispel and stuff like that. Like the knock and, the knock up and everything. But apart from that, there's like some really unique stuff that I think makes the spec like so cool. So the first one being, whenever you press Obsidian Scales, giving everyone 16% more health is so cool. And I think previously I've mostly played Preservation Evoker, so I'm kind of already in the mindset of like going into every boss, like thinking about what cooldowns we want to use and like looking at people's defensives and figuring out like where am I going to Zephyr, things like that. So you kind of like whenever I go into a boss fight, I kind of have a plan. I'm like, all right, I have one charge of scales, I have one Zephyr, I have my cauterizing flame, and you can kind of just map it out like as it kind of like in like a healer mindset. Like, how do you want to help the group? And what buttons do you have? And maybe if you're in Discord, like when I ran some keys in Discord with my friends, we kind of like coordinate stuff. It's just a lot of fun. Like I've never played anything like it. Obviously, it seems like it's a little bit overtuned right now, but I don't know if that's on purpose. If it is, I mean, I think that's cool. Like when they make a new spec, you want it to be like worth playing. So I think that's fine. Obviously it seems like it interacts differently with a lot of different specs, but I don't know. I think it's all still shaken out. It's just the first week, so we'll see kind of how that turns out. Yeah, so the scales are really cool. The Zephyr is really cool. Cauterizing flame on the tank is so cool. Another thing is these blistering scales. You could see it kind of on my party frames here. It's kind of small, but it's that little like black square with the 10. I need to improve my uptime on that a lot, but basically it just puts like an armor buff on the tank and it makes them reflect damage when they get like meleeed. I think it's when they get meleeed. It's either when they take damage or when they get meleeed, but it like reflects damage onto the attackers and it counts as their damage, so it helps them like generate threat and it gives them defensive and it gives them a small absorb shield. Or maybe not even small. I mean, like it's like 100k, I think, when I put it on the tank. And when you put it on the tank when they have less health, I think it's even more. But you can put it on other people. I don't know if you really want to under any situation, but I mean, I guess it is an option. Like if you need a small absorb shield to like live something. But mostly I just like keep it on the tank. Depending on the key and how much damage the tank's doing, like I've seen it be as much as 10% of their overall damage, and I've seen it be as little as like 3 if they're really pumping damage. So it's just something cool. You just kind of like keep it on the tank. I think that's really sick. I used to play Hunter a lot, so I'm like familiar with like misdirecting before the pole. Obviously I've healed on a lot of specs, so I kind of like already have that rhythm of like making sure you keep this thing on the tank all the time. So I'm kind of used to it, but it might be weird if you're like just used to DPSing. Might be weird to get used to, but you can also target it at the enemy and then it'll put it on the enemy's target. So it's like target of target. There's a couple spells that work like that, like prescience or prescience, aka the Presh buff, whatever you want to call it. We had a debate about this in my stream the other day. So I'm just calling it all these different things. But basically, you could put that on someone specifically, or you can just press it and it'll just go on a DPS in your group as long as they're in range, which I've found to be easier. Like unless I'm like min maxing my buffs or anything like that. I don't know, just while I'm learning, I kind of just send it. Maybe there's like optimal ways to play it, but I think it's pretty cool. Gives them a little bit of crit, and there's a talent that makes it like a chance to proc their damage a little bit more. So that's really sick. Every time you press hover, it'll put you in your bronze stance, which like increases everyone's speed by a lot, which is really interesting. Upheaval is one of their like empowered spells, and it knocks up the mobs. I did it, I think maybe it wasn't optimal. Let me rewind a little bit. So it's this button here. It's like center and left. I don't know if you can see my cursor, probably. But I'm going to cast that soon, hopefully. I should cast it now. Yeah, so I'm casting it now. and when I release it, it's going to knock up all of these mobs here. I'm fully charging it because the mobs are kind of spread, so I'm trying to increase the radius of the knockup. But usually you could just send it on Empower 1, I think, if they're like kind of grouped or if you don't care about, interrupting anything. So then I knock up and it stopped like anything that was casting. Obviously people kicked the other stuff, but like anything that was casting would have been interrupted if it's like a knockable mob. So just having something like that like on your basic rotation, I think is really cool. And there's like a little bit of finesse to it. Like if nothing's casting and I'm charging it up, like I won't send it on Empower 1. I kind of like hold on for a sec and wait for something to start. Maybe not in this video, but in theory, in my head, if I'm playing properly, that's kind of my goal with that, is that, what? Bro, I didn't say, hey Siri, yo, get the fuck out of here, fucking phone. What was I talking about? Yeah, the upheaval thing. Specifically like in Underot, because there's so many big pulls where so many different things are casting, having something that you just like passively do to interrupt all these mobs is like, I think that's really, really interesting and really cool. The other Empower is just Fire Breath, which is just kind of normal Fire Breath. There's a little bit of interesting stuff there, but I don't know if it's really worth going into. Kind of just like my first impressions of the spec. Now, I have Breath of Eons ready here, so I'm going to send that on the boss. And hopefully, it looks like my mage has Combust. My sub-rogue doesn't have his thing, but I don't know how sub-rogues work anyway. But mage has Combust, so let me fast forward a little bit. I was kind of expecting the tank to pull the boss earlier, so we're all kind of holding. Usually people pull this onto the boss. But yeah, so basically we're going to pull the boss soon. And then I breath here. The mage is combusting. And so the breath gives you your Ebonmite buff. And it also, if you have the talent, will give everyone a shield up to 30% of their maximum health for the damage that they do with the breath debuff on the enemy, which is just so cool. Like you could see, I don't know if you could see it on my UI, it might be gone already, but it just adds like a little bit of cushion to the pull when everyone's doing damage, and just gives your healer like a little bit of wiggle room. And speaking of healers, there's also a buff that gives them mana when you use your Empower spells. So just like trickling a little bit of mana to the healer like throughout the dungeon is really, really sick. This spec seems like it just adds like, I don't know, I've heard people say, I think it takes at least a key level off if you're playing properly. I've heard people say like 2 or 3 key levels. Like I was watching someone stream, they were doing a 26. They were like, yeah, this felt like a 23 or a 24. And I think that's pretty true. Like from the healers I've talked to, I haven't been healing. I've just been playing augmentation this week really. But like healers seem to love this spec. Tanks seem to love this spec. Other DPS seem to love this spec. Like I think it's just really, really cool. Like it's such an interesting new addition to the game. I hope they make more stuff like it. Like I've always been one to like, my main focus when I'm doing keys is like coordinating my group and like making sure everyone's, using their buttons at the right time, or like helping them figure that out, or just like calling kicks and calling stops and stuff. I always like doing utility over, trying to be like the top damage meter. And I think this is like the only spec where you don't really, like if you look at my overall right now, like they're doing 261, 229, the tank's doing 152. I'm only doing 58 on details. So it's kind of like I'm never really looking at my damage during the key. I'm just focused on buffing other people. If I'm in Discord, I'm calling kicks, I'm calling stops, stuff like that. So it's just really, really unique and interesting. Like I love it. I think it's my favorite spec I've ever played, but we'll see. Obviously we'll see in like a couple weeks if I still feel that way. Might just be like, hey, it's the new thing. So obviously you think it's fun. Apart from that, it's like a very, very simple rotation. It's just like an uptime kind of deal. It almost reminds me of Frost Mage back in the day, where like you would press Icy Veins and then you would just focus on extending it and reducing the cooldown. And it was just very simple and very satisfying to play. And I was doing, the other day I was doing an underout with my friends, and I was like, my goal for this key is I'm going to coordinate every kick and every CC and every stop for the team, and then no one has to worry about that at all. And I just focus on doing the callouts and doing my very simple rotation. And we had a much easier time than when I was like playing Balanced Druid, and I couldn't focus on anything other than like spreading my dots. And even Balance is kind of easy, but like I don't know. I'm like not good at this game. I need all the help I can get usually, but it's simple enough where like I feel like I can do those things as a DPS player and call kicks and stops and just focus on keeping my buffs up, which I think is really, really cool. Like I know I already said, but like this is my favorite spec I ever played. It's so sick. So for example, we'll see. I don't know if I played well in this boss fight, but like I have all my defensives available. Let's see how I go or how it goes. So I pop my breath, which is giving everyone an absorb shield, and I pop lust. So like for example, right there, like that bleed, you might not have caught it. I rewind it. So there's a bleed that's about to go on the healer. Like this bleed fucking owns people. Obviously this is a fortified, so it's not that bad, but I cleared that bleed before he even pressed his defensive. The bleed was off of him, you know, and that to me is just like so fun to be doing as a DPS spec. And then this one's on me, so I use my renewing blaze, and it's like I'm not even taking damage. Oh, I maybe overkilled on the defensives here. Like I still had my scales up. I probably didn't need to use my renewing blaze, but I did anyway. And then I blew Zephyr there because I thought the knock was gonna go off. So all right, this isn't a good example. Don't judge me. But the point is like, there's just so much you can do. That like usually is a healer kind of thing. Like right there, I think I Verdant embraced the guy with the bleed on him, which was overkill. I'm kind of going like way too hard on trying to be helpful. But like see the rogue, like we're about to get knocked and he has the bleed, so I just Verdant embrace him to give him like a tiny little bit of extra health. I should be focusing on just doing my rotation, but like I'm just worried about him. Then this bleed goes on me and I have nothing, so I spore cloak. So I mean, maybe not the best example of a fight. I overused defensives there. Oh shit, he GS'd me. All right, cool. This Holy Priest is actually really, really good. So bad example, whatever. I shouldn't have used this footage, but you know what I mean. So like here, for example, this is actually kind of a dangerous pull, and you could see there's like these weavers do this AOE cast. So I'm just flying over, I'm stunning all the AOEs. And then I come over here and I typhoon the pack together to put them all in the fire mage's like flame patch thing, so that he could do more damage and we could like stun all of them together rather than having them spread out, because there's like casters and stuff, so it's kind of hard to group. That was actually kind of cool. So he's in combust. You kind of on this spec, like you kind of have to look at people's cooldowns and like make judgments about where to use it, which I think is really fun because I'm like already doing that stuff anyway. We have the breath, and then once they're grouped, like here, all these casts, like I'm charging my upheaval. I should have waited until they were actually casting, but like say there was a bunch of casts going on there, like I would have stopped all of those casts, and then I still have another knock up with the tail swipe, or I forget which one is which, but there's like the knock up and the knock forward. So like here, there's these two guys. I think it's called Hail something. On my Plater profile, I renamed it to AOE Stun Stop just because it's easier. And I made it pink, so I run in there, I knock them all up, stops all the AOE damage, refresh my scales on the tank to give him a little bit of extra armor and a little absorb shield. And yeah, like everything's, it's so simple and nice, and I don't know, it's like easy to play. Everyone's happy to see you. Like they're like, oh, nice, we have an augmentation evoker. Like everyone's like, dude, I'm gonna do so much damage. The tank's like, yeah, I'm gonna be tanky. The healer gets mana. Like it's just cool. So I love it a lot. I might do like a follow-up video in a little while, like if I still like it. They're probably gonna like nerf it at some point, maybe. I don't know. Like, do you think that they're gonna nerf it? Let me know in the comments. Like, I think they should let it cook for like the rest of the season, because like rating's over for most people, and like I don't know that Blizzard cares that much about Mythic Plus. So I guess we'll see what they do. But I'm having a great time on Evoker. If you have a dragon leveled up and you're slightly interested, like I would try it, because if you like it and it's fun, then like now's the time to play it. I've been having a fucking blast. I can't wait till like one of my friends is away, like my normal healer Prey. He's like not around this week, so I haven't been able to play with him. I've been playing with one of my tank friends. Every DPS friend that I know is like excited that I'm playing it because I get to do more damage. it's so cool. So that's my opinion. Let me know what you guys how you guys feel about the spec. Might do another video soon about like people complaining about the meta and stuff like that, because everyone's like, I know it's funny. So here's the thing, like none of these specs are meta except for Fire Mage, really. I mean, sub is really good, but like no one's playing Holy Priest. Brewmaster is like recently very good. From all the Brewmaster players that I've seen around, they're all like very happy to be playing with an Augvoker. They say they feel like way tankier. I don't know how that spec works, but I don't know. Everyone seems to be happy playing with them. I guess the people that are unhappy are just DPS players that aren't playing with an Augvoker, but I don't know. It's the hot new thing. Like, I don't think it'll be forever, and a lot of people complaining are like, they're not really like, I don't know, they're not doing plus 29 keys. And if you are, then you're always re-rolling to the new spec, so it doesn't matter. Like, if you're just doing like a 20 key or like a 23 like this one, like invite whoever you want. Invite your friends, invite anyone that's like you think is reasonably, geared enough and has enough experience. Like, I don't know. This is a whole other video, but like, don't go crazy with the meta. You don't need a Shadow Priest and a Fire Mage and an Augvoker, Guardian Druid, H-Pal for every fucking key that you're doing. It's like weird. And if people think that they need that and they're doing like a 20, like that's like a red flag, Like, you don't need it. Well, is it nice? Yeah, but not like, don't like wait in queue for a fucking hour looking for like the perfect comp. Just send the key, Don't worry about it. Yeah, that kind of wraps it. It's kind of like a rant style video, I guess. Let me know what you think. Is this better than me sitting in front of the fake brick wall with the captions, or should I go back to that? Let me know. Thanks, guys.